Welcome to the show. Now please strap in for the truth and remember the words of the great Tom Cruise.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Now welcome to Off Topic on Porn.
All right, we are back with another episode of Off Topic on Point. Thank you for joining us. Again, we are happy to be here with you. Again, I am Rob Looper with my buddy and co-host Russell Cruzan, and today, again, we have a special guest, James Aldridge, who helps us on the back end, is with us. James, it is good to have you. How are you guys doing this evening, Russell? What's going on?
Well, I'm doing fine, Rob. Been a really good weekend, and I anticipate a good week, actually. So how are you guys doing?
Good, good. James, how's it going over there?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much.
Good.
Every day's a holiday.
Hey, there you go. So, okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on in the news cycle.
Hey, before we move on to
Yeah.
that, can I ask you something?
Absolutely.
Did you get a new hairstylist or something?
No, so the reason you guys are seeing or noticing the new hairstyle is because normally I have a visor on. That's part of my
Yeah.
I walk around with a visor
Yeah.
almost all the time. And so I don't have that on. In fact, normally I have a t-shirt on, and I actually left the collared shirt on because, again, not coming straight from church, obviously, because of when we're recording, but coming from a bunch of things, and I didn't really want to change, didn't have time to change, and so I was like, I'm not even going to put a visor on. I'll just go with the old combed hair. I got a haircut, so it's kind of nice and short, like I like it. So you guys are getting the do. So as I,
All right.
so
Is it a green shirt?
no, it's actually kind of a blue.
I was going to say maybe it's a
aqua.
collared green.
Collared green. That was funny, Russell. But here, you know what I'm going to do?
James didn't think so.
We're going to give you a cheer for that one. There you go. Cheers coming for you. So, all right. So Russell had a good funny. We gave him some cheers. Here's what I'm going to say. We've got a kind of dominating the news cycle right now. We're going to jump right in. Is the Iran war? And, I read some things where President Trump had said, right now, stopping Iran from getting nuclear capabilities is more important than worrying about the price of oil. And I've noticed when I go to the gas pump right now, gas is a little more expensive than it used to be. So my question to you guys is the Iran war making the United States more or less safe? So what do you guys think? Dealer's choice, you guys figure out who jumps in first.
I'll just jump in.
All right.
I think America's more safe, but just because despite these temporary setbacks, this is war. This is not supposed to be a simple one and done. You send in all the troops and in one day, you defeat a country. This is a very populous country. I think Americans have this immediacy in our thinking. We think everything's like a TV episode or a movie. Everything wraps up by the end, and then you move on to something else. It doesn't work like that in real life. But ultimately, I think that America's more safe because a nuclear Iran, they say it every day in prayers: "Death to America, death to Israel." Let's not wait until they have a nuclear weapon and fire at us and kill hundreds of thousands of people to say, you know what? Now's the time to do something about that. You think?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with James on that, obviously. It really, maybe I'm just getting old, but I just find it so childish, even. It's ridiculous and childish that people are just dismissing what a nuclear armed Iran actually means for the world, not just for us. It's crazy. And for guys like Tucker Carlson to actually try to proffer that we have no there's no danger afforded to us. I don't know. To me, it's just a monumental ego that generates that sort of thing. That this regime has been a problem since from day one, and it has, as I pointed out last week, killed many Americans. Whatever chance it gets, that's what it does. They are not our friends. The regime actually foisted itself upon the people back in 1979. The people are oppressed. some people in our country think, well, that's just too bad because that's not our country and leave them alone. Like we have no moral obligation to do something to help the downtrodden and those that are plighted with such things. I guess we can, help the downtrodden, so-called, that the left wants to define as such here in this country, the people that are oppressed and those that are not white, that are a part of the minority, whatever, but we leave them alone. It's okay for
Right.
them to be slaughtered and to uh, endure ungodly persecution at the hands of this awful regime. So, no, I totally agree with James. I think that this is a right thing to do. And I think not only are we looking out for America, and that's an America first thing if you want to see it that way, but it is also our moral obligation as the strongest, most powerful nation in the world to intervene. We did it in Nigeria, and that was a good thing, and we should do some more of that. And we're doing it here, and that's another good thing.
I agree. I think,
Yeah.
and again, I don't disagree. I think it's one of those things where sometimes, again, it becomes a good talking point on either side, depending on what you wanna say and
Well,
what
which
your
side is right?
and see that's I think where again we as a and I'm going to say this when it comes to people in general, it we need to start looking at what is right and not what is a soundbite. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and see that to me is where I think we've lost our way as humans, as people on the planet, because you can go anywhere and somebody, it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody wants to be the opposition. They want to get clicks. They want to get whatever. So we need to be. I can't agree with this person, whoever it is. You know what I'm saying? So for some reason, it's we'll use whatever the trigger words are, and we'll start saying things regardless of whether, to your point, Russell, it's right or it's wrong. We're gonna find something that makes it wrong even when it's right. And I think that's the thing to me is this right? What are we doing, and is this correct? And I think what's interesting in this instance is when you look at what Iran is actually doing, they're firing off things at their friends now. I mean, they're
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, they
people
stopped doing that ostensibly, but yeah.
I mean, but they did it, and they're just. I mean, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, I mean, even the people who are their friends are going, look, do what you got to do. I don't know what to do with these people. We're
Yeah.
done. Like,
Yeah.
whatever now. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure what's really going on with Iran at this point. But at this
Yeah.
point, it needs things need to be kind of, and I think James, you've mentioned this before that this isn't like a new war. I think you said it's been going on since what 1979.
1979. Yeah.
Yeah,
They've been at war against America.
yeah.
Yep.
They want to destroy us.
Yeah.
So
Their words.
well, and so in that case, and I think this bears at least a point being made. It's hard to come to a negotiation with somebody when you say, okay, let's sit down and let's have a negotiation, let's have a talk. And the starting point, not like okay, where I'd like to end or anything, but the starting point is okay, I want you dead. Well, that's a hard place to negotiate from.
Hmm.
When it's okay, death to you. That's a pretty
Hmm.
hard place to come from. And
Indeed.
and so I think to your guys' points, and I agree with you. We are making America safer by saying, okay, we're not going to allow these people to garner, apocalyptic destruction capabilities. Um,
Right.
so, that's at least one thing we can, I think, not that we disagree a lot anyway, but I think that's one thing we should all be able to agree on. We do not want somebody whose mantra is death to America to be able to acquire weapons that would allow you to incinerate half the world. You know,
And from the river to the sea,
yeah,
Palestine will be free. And what that means is killing all the Jews, pushing them into the
Yep.
Mediterranean Sea, or maybe destroy them by nuclear holocaust. And
Absolutely.
so they've got both nations in the crosshairs, and it is absolutely foolish for people to say some of the things that they're saying about us teaming up with Israel to engage in this. James, you had something?
Yeah, I was going to say, with respect to this topic, I think we all saw about the Michigan synagogue shooting.
Yeah.
I just saw today, AP reported that it is believed that the man who was involved in that case, Ayman Ghazi, his brother was a Lebanese commander. He was a Hezbollah in Lebanon, He claims that his family, the man in the U.S. in America, was claiming that Israel destroyed his family. So this was a retaliation attack against Jews in the city, even though the Temple Israel had absolutely nothing to do with anything going on in the Middle East. They're just a synagogue in Dearborn Heights, Michigan, and they had to face this attack. Fortunately, no one was killed. He took his own life, and the security team for the synagogue took him out. So I guess you can argue that we can expect to see more targets, but it's not like this is the first synagogue that was shot. Synagogues have been shot
Right.
many times in the past.
Yeah.
So it's not like this is a new synagogue shooting. Jewish people in America have always been targets,
Yep.
unfortunately, for thousands of years.
Well, and James, that's actually an interesting segue, because there seems to be let's term it a MAGA meltdown, because because Doug Wilson is showing the divide between conservatives on the issue of Israel. So Russell, I'm going to throw this to you because you have you'll lead us off with let's explain to people who Doug Wilson is if they don't know,
Oh,
and then kind
yeah.
of why do we listen to him, or maybe you can say why we don't, whatever. Just kind of give us some information about him, and then let's kind of talk about the divide that he's kind of made evident.
Sure, Rob. So Doug Wilson is a pastor and a theologian and an apologist, and very much an apologist, who has in the past taken on the quote unquote four horsemen of atheism, Sam Harris and Daniel Dennett and the late Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins. And he actually had garnered a friendship with Christopher Hitchens a little bit before the passing of Christopher Hitchens, and they actually were dialoguing. They debated each other. I've seen the debate. I think maybe James has too. And they actually cultivated a friendship, and of course, Doug Wilson was witnessing very heavily to him during that time. Um, he has several books out. I have one here called "The Deluded Atheist." I don't know if you can see it very well or not, but it's flashing out. But it's about it's his response to the God Delusion book by Richard Dawkins. So that's kind of the camp where he is most known for functioning. And so on this issue of Israel and the divide that has been created in conservatism. By the way, the divide exists in the church also,
Yeah.
and the two overlap, right? But the he's addressed the encounter between Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson, and he's addressed Candace Owens's diatribes and so forth. And he's right. There is a damaging divide taking place in conservatism. I would make this observation, and this is Russell. This is not Doug Wilson. That is probably the Achilles heel of conservatism. We try to be people who function on principle, right? The left does not function on principle. They function on power, and they function on virtue signaling and those kinds of things. And whether something's moral or not, they try to deconstruct the idea that anything is moral. The only thing that's moral is that which comes against that which actually is moral, and then that's their morality. So, but on the right, we tend to proffer things that are principled ideas, right? And things like do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So what happens in the conservative movement is people get self-righteous, and so they get on this hobby horse at whatever someone's particular hang up is. They get on a hobby horse with that hang up, and then if the rest of the conservative movement doesn't just follow along with them, then they take their ball and go home. It's one of the worst thumb-sucking maneuvers that anybody could possibly engage in, and the whole time acting like they're really so righteous, when what it is the whole time is self-righteous. One of the great principles that we should be embracing is the ability to forbear one another and to understand that there's a greater good out there in the conservative movement and in the Christian conservative movement. And we don't do things just because everything isn't happening just like I want it to. if we are moving forward in our quest to remove evil from the world and to underscore righteousness in the world as conservatives, then we ought to be functioning together and not saying, if my pet issue is not answered exactly the way I say, I'm going to take my ball and go home, and I'm going to take all my followers with me. Because by default, you are siding with the people that are on the exact opposite side of you without actually doing it. Because if each of us weakens the conservative movement, by default, the left wins. And
Right.
that is our biggest problem in the conservative movement, is people can't get their self-righteousness out of their crawl and lay it aside and do what is actually right.
I love it,
Go ahead,
Russell.
James.
Thumb sucking conservatives. I love it. And I think about Candace Owens. I think about Nick Fuentes, who actually came
Oh,
out
yeah.
this weekend and said he's actually urging Republicans to vote Democratic the next election.
Yeah.
That's how much he
The guy's a
despises
faker.
Trump. Yeah.
He's a clickbait. If I could, I'm not going to say it. I was going to say something, and I'm not going to use the word, but let's just say he seeks after clickbait.
Yeah, attention. And the thing is, if you notice that Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, as well as Tucker Carlson, they've all turned their back on President Trump. And I think it's politically expedient. They're trying to read the winds. They're trying to, I guess, cash in somehow. If Donald Trump fails and the Democrats take control of the House and Senate, they may impeach and remove him.
And what if they
So
don't?
Yeah, and what if they don't? Exactly.
See, if they
What if
don't,
they don't
now you've aired your dirty laundry, and you're just out there. You've cut your own rope, and now you're floating out there on the sea of whatever, and
Yep.
and nobody's going to trust you anymore. That's conservative, because you have waffled. That's another thing. We are principled, and one of the principles is we stick by the stuff. We are consistent. We should be consistent as conservatives, not play these waffle games. And then Israel is being put at the forefront of all of it. One of the things that I will say I disagree with Doug Wilson on. I agree with him on his conservatism, and I agree with him on his apologetics. I do not agree with his reform theology, and I do not
Yeah, that
agree
is
with
true.
his replacement theology. And it's almost hand in glove. If you're a reformed theologian, then you to one level or another you embrace replacement
Covenant
theology.
theology. Yeah,
Yeah.
as part of
Covenant theology, which is replacement theology.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
they appeal to passages like Galatians 3:28 and 29, where it says there's no Jew or Greek.
Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, no male nor
And
female.
it's like that's not a good, because it also says there's no male or female, but there are. This is a principle that is being communicated in the Word of God concerning the body of Christ, not an abdication of the idea that there's a Jew. Because if there's no Jews, there's no nobody, because there's no Gentiles either,
Right.
according to that passage. Romans 9, 6 through 8. For not all Israel,
Is Israel.
they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. So then they jump from that to, that's talking about the church. We're actually the Israel, which it doesn't say that in the passage, but that's where they go, and they press this supersessionist idea. First Peter chapter 2, verses 9 and 10. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, which comes directly from Exodus chapter 19, verses 5 through 6, where God describes Israel. So they say, well, see, we are the new Israel. Now, it doesn't say that that the church is the new Israel. It could be that we have a common mission with regard to that, but that just doesn't seem to occur to people. Go ahead, James.
Oh, I was going to say, with respect to that, First Peter is written to diaspora Jews.
Yes.
Even says it, to the Jews scattered. He's writing to Jewish people who believe in Jesus. He's saying those people, that is the diaspora Jews, you are a holy generation, holy priesthood. You're sent forth into the world to reconcile people back to God.
It says in Galatians 6:16. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's right. No, go ahead.
It says in Galatians 6:16, peace on them and mercy and upon the Israel of God. And so they argue, well, that the Israel of God there's the fake Israel, or the old Israel, the Israel that God has done away with. And then there's us. We're the new Israel. We're the Israel of God. It doesn't say that in the passage. That is an extrapolation. So people have to be real careful about this idea that, because I've heard covenant theologians say, well, if you're a dispensationalist, for example, then you have to deal with the passages that in the New Testament that teach that the Christian church is the heir of all of God's promises to Israel. Well, no, it doesn't teach that. It doesn't teach, for example, the curses, the promised curses to Israel, and I've noticed nobody wants to embrace those. But yeah, so anyway, needless to say, theologically, I don't agree with that position. That doesn't mean we can't come together on conservatism. We do.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that I can't appreciate the man for his public voice when it comes to apologetics as well as political commentary, because he's pretty straightforward and correct in his political concepts.
Yeah, then that's an excellent point. That is excellent. We don't eat our dead.
Right.
We're not supposed to, at least.
Right, or even our
Little
wounded.
cockroach
Right.
mentality. Yeah, shoot our wounded, or whatever the expression is.
So I
Not
don't know if
supposed to do
that's, I don't know if that's what you guys wanted as far as
Yeah.
what I had to say about Doug Wilson. I have a lot of respect for the man. He has done a good work in our generation. And I think that it's good that he's addressing this division in the conservative movement. I think we all need to address it.
Right. And one of the things that I would like to say about that is that I think part of the reason why the MAGA movement grew so strong is because it was a broad-based coalitions between evangelicals, pro-life Catholics, conservatives that wanted things like smaller government, lower taxes, and there was a
Yes.
pretty large coalition. I think the biggest issue was pro-life, overturning Roe v. Wade. That had happened, and so I think the conservative movement needs a new thing to kind of unite the movement.
Yeah.
But I think before was the issue of abortion, and now that that's kind of fractured some, I think we need new vision to say, hey, okay, this is the issue that we can unite on. And I think we're kind of letting Israel and all these other ancillary issues divide us, divide the party, divide the movement.
Yeah. Amen.
So, good stuff. So let's end, though, this evening real quickly because we're getting close to time. We've talked about some interesting stuff and it's not downer stuff, but it's bigger. But I always like that we'll end tonight on a upper kind of note. It's still tragic, but there was a we'll call it forgiveness gone right. How about that? Forgiveness gone
Yeah.
right. We always
Yes.
like
That
that,
sounds
right?
good.
But there was a senior prank that went horribly wrong, horribly wrong. Where these seniors went to TP their teacher's house,
Yeah, their high
and
school teacher. Yeah.
their high school teacher's house, and
Yeah.
it went horribly wrong. And the teacher ended up coming out, I guess, to either stop them or talk to him or whatever.
Yeah. No, he was enjoying himself.
Yeah,
But
he was
he
enjoying
was like,
it, and
hey, you guys got me. You guys got me
got
good.
it. And then he ended up getting run over. Went to the street or whatever, and he got hit by a car, got run over, and got killed, which is tragic. And his wife actually has come out and said, "Hey, look, we don't need to charge these kids. We don't want you to ruin their life." She's basically forgiven these young men, and again, it's just shown a true because it's heartbreaking for her. I'm sure she loved her husband dearly, and it's really shown truly what forgiveness looks like. And again, I don't want to pretend that forgiveness just means consequences go away. That's not what I'm saying. Because we know there are times that the Lord forgives us, and that doesn't mean that the earthly repercussions just vanish. That's not what we're saying. But we are saying here that she is really looking at the situation and saying, "Hey, look, this is really they were they were not out here to do harm. They were not out here to do anything other than really have a good time. This is just a tragic, tragic, unfortunate accident." And really showing forgiveness and showing grace and mercy. And so there are still good people, um, godly people, it would really appear, who are out there who are really trying to, even in their grief,
Yeah.
do what the Lord would say. This is how you reflect me. So um,
Yeah.
with that, we will say, we pray for we pray for that family in that hour in their hour of need. But also, I think that's it's always nice to know that there are still people out there who are
Yeah.
really trying to reflect who the Lord is to the world
Yes,
at large.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
anything else, gentlemen?
I think we've covered all the big stuff that we were going to cover.
Hmm.
All right.
Yeah, sounds good,
Well,
guys.
with that, I will say what we normally say when we sign off. You do not always have to be on topic. You can be off topic, but you must always be on point.
On point.
On point. And we will catch you on the next episode of Off Topic On Point. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening today to Off Topic On Point. We want to remind you of our email address if you'd like to contact us. It's otopnow@gmail.com. That's otopnow@gmail.com. And as always, we want to leave you with this. It's okay to be off topic. Just make sure you're always on point. All right. We'll catch you on the next episode. Bye-bye.